Air pollution affects 90% of the global population, and Bhutan is no exception. As industries grow, forest fires spread, and families depend on wood and coal for heating, toxic air has become an invisible part of daily life. Air pollution is a silent threat, endangering the health and well-being of our children. Located in the southern plains of Bhutan, Phinsiling Tromde is one of the country's largest industrial and commercial hubs. For generations, families residing in Phinsiling, surrounded by the Pasakha industrial estate, called it home long before factories rose against the horizon. Today, while the industrial estate has brought jobs and a sense of economic progress, it has also introduced something else: pollution. From thick smoke to choking dust and constant noise, residents, including young children, are exposed daily. Residents feel it in their eyes and smell it in the air.
Ngache anebe misi machuba naked eye anebe sedi jo de beru riska tham tharasa mito kha jimni dula theo di mapala ani di kachulo da natural phat ani damgi theo ani kambe jojogi memel ani factory homi ani silt ani kachul achi sparking.
We met a young man who works at one of the factories in the estate. He chose to remain anonymous, fearing he could lose his job. He says,
Winter season में के छ भने अब हामीले देख्न सक्छ राति कतिको डस्ट छोडेको छ लुगा सुकाएर बाहिर आएछ नि डस्ट पार्टिकल हुन्छ अनि त्यो त्यस्तै अब नानीहरुले लायो भने अब बिमार हुने चान्स एलर्जी हुने अब कति केमिकल हुन्छ डस्टमा हैन त्यस्तो हुन्छ नि डस्ट मात्रै भएर हैन फेरि अब स्मेल कस्तो आउँदैछ अब नानीहरु बिमार हुन्छ कोही त अब केमिकलले बनेको स्मोक हो अनि त्यसले अब हेल्थलाई त प्रब्लम दिन्छ.
Many say the real emissions begin when the sun sets, out of sight but never out of breath.
राति अब 2:30 हुन्छ नि AM त्यहाँ भएपछि अब त्यतिखेर सबै सुतेको हुन्छ हैन त्यतिखेर चाहिँ direct 100% air method.
Suctions are pollution control devices used for treating industrial smoke before it is released into the air. These factories emit pollutants such as sulfur oxides, nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, and particulate matter.
6 बजे 7 बजे 9 बजे उता खोज्छ देखि यस्तो केराको पत्तामा त ठ्याक्कै बस्छ नि राति त सेतो उठाउनु त खरानी उठ्छ केराको पत्ता यस्तो राख्नुपर्छ केराको पत्ता उठ्नु पनि बस्छ हावा नआएको बेलामा त पुरा बस्छ
ता कोंगी छुरुदी ngachi ane betawdari da thombela chika diba bombera la mapari tada mechu ya daru jungi lamluna.
And it is the children who pay the heaviest price. Chimithang Middle Secondary School sits in close proximity to the industries. More than 700 students study here, most of them children of factory workers. For these children, classrooms and playgrounds are only a few hundred meters from smokestacks that release dust and fumes into the air. They continue to study and play in the open. According to UNICEF, industrial air pollution is responsible for 13% of neonatal deaths in Bhutan and contributes to the growing burden of respiratory and cardiovascular diseases in the country. Yet, many families we spoke to remain unaware of the dangers. Others say they may not have medical reports to prove it, but the effects are visible and tangible both in children and adults.
Tendedi lami chube la ani gira inse di da nalefa achi da aldisulu ma theni da te mito map juni ani jumgi di gachneji di mapa gachlo hondira ila yan ani daskira on se no melanga gi bewa chinda
chilu ngachi sademda di subere na seme mado la lalugi hapanale thathin khanale thathin te lalugi di da lore khowe mamra ne do la chachu cha ne ba alu chung kusul mam phome wala
नेजिगी थेका हेब्दादी नेजिदी कैंसर की नेजी थोबनिदु तेले निपासेउदलु ते साइनसिस की नेजिदु ते साइनसिस थोबे दरु क्रोनिक बे जोसिनाले दि दरु अनि माइग्रेन की नेजी थोबनिगी यंकादु सेसुनी ते देदा चिखा दरु अनि asthma की प्रॉब्लम दी मी लेसे दिसुलु दतो माम दिसुलु थोबे द जोंसोबे वे अनि रेकॉर्ड दी नमे समे लेसे ये सुनी
मामरा टीबी की होला गतिम से दुब्बा माम इनहेल बेने के देके दुब्बा दी गार्ड डस्ट इमेल आलो दिसले माथिन देबे दमा फैक्ट्री एरिया वर्किंग एरिया ने देती है आराम से
We reached out to the Department of Industry, which confirmed that its staff in Pasakha monitor the situation daily. Further west, about 2 hours drive from Pasakha, lies Gomtu town in Samtsi, where the condition is strikingly similar. The Gomtu Higher Secondary School, home to nearly 800 students, is situated directly between the country's two largest cement factories, Benden Cement and Lucky Cement, and is surrounded by ongoing dredging activities. Children continue to study, eat in the open, and play outdoors. While a visit during summer revealed less visible dust, residents shared a different reality.
아니 베베오다디 곰투디 마페 튀오기디 다토첸제 लाखार तांतो से शुदिला because CD gari movement की the heavy trucks like 10 wheelers 12 wheelers and trucks होने दो वाला चले लेम्बा आने बेबोदादी माम गरी बेबोदादी truck दिसु फादर सु डिटेल बेबोदा थियो दिसु दी नमेश में होने दो वाला telling us company kia थियो like theater cup machinery maybe the ani gang थियो दिन में इसमें होने दो सिचुएशन
कोंदी चुकी बैग हाउस से मतलब नीचे दो वाला बैग हाउस मसे ब्लास्ट जो में गया समटाइम ती हमें थियो मिला अनि कबल ती नचे सादी छु देले गोला दिसु गारा अनि लोसम गानो लबजिन फुस्रो सेलब में अनि जुम की होमजिन ते होमदलु ती नचे आलू दा आगे आगे चमची मेंबर से नाचलु जुखाम नाचकी जुखाम लो तपदि थिने की यन खदुला दिदी अतारदी में दुबा देबदा कप दि आनि जुम थेउला.
They spoke of frequent rashes, persistent breathing difficulties, and episodes of fainting in class, which they attribute to worsening heat linked to rising temperatures and industrial pollution. Parents explained that although smoke and dust are somewhat reduced during the monsoon, the problem escalates during winter when the dry air carries heavy dust from the factories into classroom and playgrounds. Some students experience rashes so severe that finding effective treatment in Samti becomes a challenge. Interestingly, many show quicker recovery when they travel to the northern parts of the country, suggesting that the dust-heavy environment in Gomtu is a significant trigger.
te lobda na jo te te na te loba te Bhutan na beoda te sora te 태우기 땡디기 비 스비 주돌라 te 마시 다토에 나 추디아나 ngachre na tanker gi luni di luvila teoda time na lu 태우기 강일 di 남삼이 스비 주돌라 ngachre alu disu te class chupchi chuni sense tago wala te ngachre te la besale transfer mathop dauchi beochin te ani theudi nevadi ngachilu namse bomberong sunongmela.
However, doctors say the absence of targeted research on children living near industrial zones in Bhutan makes it difficult to prove a direct link.
For now, we do not have specific data for us to confidently comment that this particular disease is more prevalent in Pasakha than anywhere else in the region. But having said so, in general, the commonest illness that we see among young children are fairly similar to the rest of the country. That is mainly ARI, acute respiratory infection, in which the young children are mostly prone, especially among those school-going and those who are enrolled in early learning centers, where they are more prone for overcrowding.
The World Health Organization's study on air pollution and child health warns that toxic air affects children from the womb to adolescence with lifelong consequences. For children, it means stunted lung growth, high risk of asthma, repeated bouts of pneumonia, and even impaired brain development. Infants exposed during pregnancy in their first year are especially vulnerable to premature birth, low birth weight, and respiratory infections that can prove fatal.
If the exposure continues for longer duration, then risks of recurrent respiratory tract infection is there, and because the children's airway is relatively narrower than adult, it becomes constricted, it becomes smaller, and it's obstructed easily. So due to recurrent irritation of the airway becomes smaller, and the risk of developing bronchial asthma is higher.
The problem does not stop at childhood. Long-term exposure increases the risk of stroke, heart disease, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and lung cancer later in life. It is not just the health that is impacted. Residents in these areas see the change in how they sustain their livelihoods. Families that once grew their own vegetables and fruits now rely on imported ones. The areca nut tree that used to produce a good yield are seeing a decline in their production.
Da midisi danaba da senam gi ladisi de gari pamela gachiwesha chenchi di mapachu di beru digi debuchi lesum mathombe galen mi gi dilu chensuk mi ke wa ani bendi ani senam gi ladi ko sabel da midisi mam halam di da joda hangna la phala be ani deme ba da ani bendi gi lalchi gi sa jing di cha ani be tombe ani be limela da lalchi chena ani lalchi gi di da gachilo kitchen garden ya maintain mi bela da chidi de denda di tire me ba ani gachi chu di beru mike digale di khogi no me ba ani bazar ne no achin dani mes no dira an bendi gi da mi disugi senam gi laya chensu ke ni di numela chi chi ma jo me
साग सब्जी लगायो भने साग सब्जी यति आउँछ त्यहाँदेखि त्यो राति यस्तो खरानी जस्तो आउँछ त्यो बसेपछि साग पनि दाग लाग्छ त्यो त्यतिकै मर्ने बुद्धि भइहाल्छ मरिहाल्छ मसिनो यस्तो नुन छरेको जस्तो हुन्छ त्यति राम्रो खानु पनि पाउँदैन अन्त सबै अब खेतीहरू पनि गर्नु छोडिसकियो अब डोमै छौँ भएको नभएको खेती चाहिँ त्यही डोमा मात्रै हो अरू त हुँदैन अलिअलि अन्न लगायो भने बाली लगायो भने जङ्गलबाट बाँदर आउँछ र राति भए पनि खाइदिन्छ
For many, the visible damages to their homes and vehicles have also become a daily reminder of the pollution they live with. Residents have begun to notice troubling changes to their homes and vehicles over the past few years. The roofs of the houses, once sturdy and weather-resistant, now show signs of corrosion. Their surfaces are pitted and rusting. Even the cars and other vehicles parked outside bear similar damage. The metal surface of the vehicles are streaked with rust and the paints dulled by repeated exposure. Locals claim that even the rain now carries dust and chemicals. Many suspect emission from nearby factories have polluted the air, changing both the atmosphere and the nature of the rainfall.
침기 짜서 안 디셔 맵 테멜 아니 1 year leg sabju achende 1 year leg after 2 years lami galedi deledi ani chimnal ani gachulo da oxidize ani jomebal ani
But of course, in their infrastructure like roofs and all has been really, I think, hampered and all. And of course, there I think crops and all have been destroyed by the the smokes and all, the pollution, air pollution and all.
So machine de me that it like cement to pa like garigu chauda chire take up chugi chu the jomatupta di like zen chemical this to like harpic grade do where chugobia thinidu sesuni.
We reached out to the Association of Bhutanese Industries for comment, but have not yet received a response. Air quality concerns are not limited to Samti and Phenseling. They may be emerging across other parts of the country as well. The country's average level of fine particles in the air, known as PM2.5, hovers between 30 and 38 micrograms per cubic meter. It is more than 6 times the World Health Organization's safe limit of 5. The Lancet Countdown's Bhutan country sheet estimates that in 2021 alone, air pollution caused about 25 deaths per 100,000 people. These figures suggest that air quality may be having a measurable impact on public health in the country.
At the household level, you should open the windows, door, and then prevent the indoor air pollutions, cooking indoor, smoking inside, especially using fossil fuels. Those are the preventive measures. And when children goes out, it would be a good practice to wear the masks, so to prevent inhaling the smoke and dust.
Bhutan is now waking up to the looming threat of air pollution. Recently, the Department of Environment and Climate Change began developing the country's first ever Clean Air Action Plan. The initiative aims to tackle both domestic and transboundary pollution with the twin goal of safeguarding public health and protecting the environment. The Clean Air Action Plan, once implemented, could offer hope to these communities. The WHO has made it clear, safe air is not a luxury, but a basic human right. For Bhutan, the challenge is urgent to balance industrial growth with strict pollution controls. Until then, every breath people take comes with a silent cost.